Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, The Quinn. At least that's how I'm known here on the program, and at this point, really nowhere else. And I'm back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. You heard Revel 9's All I've Become at the top of the show. That's been our opening theme song here at The Quinn Spinn since the great year of 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I'm back here on the interview set, and I'm very excited to be joined by Caroline West, who is the host of the Broadway Girls podcast. Also, you'll see her face down at Barstool Nashville on occasion, and there's an exciting reality show project in the works. So you have a lot going on, and we have a lot to talk about.
I do, for sure.
Yeah, and we actually met, so I moonlight as a Lyft driver, and you were on your way to an event.
Yeah.
And we just started talking about what we do, and then you looked at Instagram, and you're like, wait a second, you know Taylor Berryman, who is, of course, our good friend who hosts The Poptimist, and then we started talking about podcasts, and here we are.
Yeah.
So
such a wild way to meet, though.
Yeah, right? But it's a small world, and that's such a Nashville thing to happen. You never know who you're going to meet, and what you're going to be able to collaborate on here in this wonderful city of ours. So I introduced you, but now I'm going to give you a chance to introduce you by answering the three standard questions. Of course, those three questions are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
I am Caroline West. I am from Texas, a small town in East Texas. You've never heard of it. But I moved here to Nashville almost 7 years ago. I didn't start Broadway Girls until probably about 3 years ago, and it was literally on a whim. And I started it with this other girl, and then I've just kind of like gone on my own since then. My passions, I mean, I don't really I'm all over the place. I don't feel like I have I guess, I know it sounds weird to say I don't have like a true passion, but I mean, I guess my faith, my family, my friends, my dogs, stuff like that. And I mean, just making people laugh. So I love doing that. So, and then why I wanted to come on here is, well, you told our story, how we met.
Yeah.
So I love meeting new people, and that's why I continue to still bartend and everything, because I have met some of the best people just being in that industry and that I would never meet if I was stuck at a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
And so just the connections is just insane. And so we made that connection, and I was like, you know what, here's another person that, we can, swap ideas, all that stuff. So,
yeah.
And I like your show. So
thanks. I appreciate it. I like your show as well.
Thanks.
And I had a chance to listen to the episode that you just did with Taylor on The Poptimist as well. So a lot of interesting stuff covered. Taylor's doing some interesting work over there.
Have you had him on yet?
A while ago. We're overdue though for another episode, because he's had me on 3 times and it's 3-1. So I gotta
I gotta have him on for 2 and 1.
Yeah.
So
I gotta definitely have him on pretty soon. So I'll be setting that up. But I'll be in town actually for a couple months now. So I actually have a chance to catch up and start recording some episodes again.
Well, that's good.
It's wonderful. Yeah. As much as I love the travel, sometimes you got to take care of things at home,
Oh, for sure.
So let's talk about your journey though. And so as far back as you want to go, all the way back to East Texas, I want to know what led you here. People, places, experiences. What helped you gravitate toward this creative life that you're living, as a podcaster, as somebody who is out doing things publicly?
Yeah. I'm trying to think how far back I should go. I mean, my parents, so I have 2 stoplights in my town, and my parents have always been those very outgoing people, and I took after that. And so they always told me to get out of the small town, and they were they just instilled that I guess not really freeness, but free spiritedness in it, in me. So I just have always gone against the grain, and I mean that's what my parents pretty much told me to do, in a respectful way.
Yeah.
But I grew up, growing up, everybody was you're going to be somebody who has a podcast. And I mean, I know people tell each other that all the time, but everybody has always said they're you're most likely to be on TV or stuff like that. And then Nashville wasn't even a thought. When I was living in Dallas, I moved here from Dallas, and I visited here. It's actually, so I didn't move here because of a guy. But there was a guy that was from the East Texas area that I knew, and we had kind of like reconnected, and he was living here for a little bit for work.
Mm-hmm.
And so he flew me up here one night. I never like really looked into Nashville. Like I didn't know anything about it. This was in what, 2018? Yeah, like January. And so he flew me up here. I visited that like one night, and then I was like, I'm gonna move here. And he didn't know anything about, like, he was living in Antioch, like doing construction, so it was temporary. And I mean, obviously we were like kind of dating, but whatever. I didn't care. I wasn't gonna live with him, so I like did all this research, joined all these like rental groups, and found my roommates on Facebook. Drove up one weekend to meet them with my dogs, and then I moved here 6 months later.
It's amazing how Nashville just gets its hooks in you. Like, and you're just like, okay, yep, that's the move. Because similar story. I mean, it's a couple months for me, but like I had friends who already lived here. They had just got married, bought a house, and I was thinking about making a move. I was up in Pennsylvania at the time. This is also 2018. And they're just like, hey, we're buying a house and we need a roommate. So if you're moving somewhere, move here. And I was looking for a music industry town. So that made it a lot easier. And then I came down, did some legwork, you know, one weekend, and ended up with a job at the Opry. And then 2 weeks later, I was here. Cool. Yeah, I got to work security at the Grand Ole Opry for a while.
Hey, that's badass. Yeah. See, I didn't have a plan when I moved up here. I truly didn't. I like didn't care if I ended up still dating that dude or not. We ended up breaking up a month later, so it wasn't really a big deal. But I literally had no plan. I knew no one here. Yeah. Nobody. And I immediately got a job on Broadway, like the first week I was here. So, and it would happen to be like CMA Fest week. So I like walked in, and Honky Tonk Central was the first place to hire me. Okay. And they hired me as a server, and I worked there for like maybe a month and a half, and then I got a job at Whiskey Row, which was my ultimate goal because they had just opened. Right. And so got a job there, and then, you know, kept going. So yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. It's a fantastic city to meet people too. You know, so even if you don't know anybody here, like it's not so huge that you feel like swallowed up by the grandeur of the city, like in New York or in LA, right? Yeah. It's a pretty big city, but it's not like that size. So it's, I think you find your people faster.
It depends. Like, I mean,
to a degree.
Yes and no. Because I feel like because I'm such a, like, my mom always makes this joke. She's like, you know somebody in every zip code. And I'm like, I do. I always talk to people. And so when I didn't know anybody, I just knew my roommates. I was literally a regular, I guess, like at Tin Roof in Midtown before it got, you know, whatever. And Doghouse. And I just like went and sat at the bar by myself, and I was just like watching, like taking everything in. And I met so many people that way because everybody wants to talk. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on if you want to like put yourself out there or not. Right.
And then as you get to know people, of course, you start refining your circles based on how you're growing as a person and based on how people may or may not fit into, you know, the greater, you know, ecosystem of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
But for sure, like, you know, it's a great place to just kind of come and hit the ground running.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, there's so many opportunities. So
yeah. And you found plenty of those opportunities. Of course, now you're at Barstool. So tons of fun adventures to be had anywhere on Broadway or in that area, right?
Oh, yeah.
But Barstool, of course, recently opened within the past couple of years and definitely has its own vibe and its own kind of stamp on the fabric of Broadway and the surrounding area. So what's the experience been like for you down there?
Just like on Broadway or Barstool in general?
I mean, Barstool, but in general on Broadway. Like, what have you gotten to see and observe and experience in the time you've been here?
I'll start with like the bars I've worked at, and then I'll go to Barstool. Worked at Whiskey Row for a little bit. Then I went to Jason Aldean's for 2 years, and like kind of like during COVID and all that stuff. And then I was kind of feeling burnt out with Jason's, but I mean, I still met like amazing people at both of those jobs. Yeah. Then I didn't even apply to Winners and Losers. Well, now it's Duck Blind.
Duck Blind, yeah.
I didn't even apply. And it was like during COVID, it was like right when COVID was like kind of, you know, the regulations, like you had to be sitting at like a table to like get in. My friend, we were sitting at a table at Winners, and they were like, my friend was outside and they said, hey, like, we're not letting him in. Or he was like, I can't get in. And I was like, why can't you get in? We have like 4 seats at our table. He's like, the bouncer is like saying no. So I walked outside, the bouncer, and I was like, "Who hurt you?"
Mhm.
I was like,
Who
"Who hurt you?" I was like, "We literally have 4 seats." I was like, "What is your problem?" I was
Mhm.
like, and this guy is like an angel. I'm like, "Why aren't you letting him in?" So I'm talking shit. The GM overhears me, and he like turned around and he's like, "Hey, what's your name?" I'm like, "Why? Like, what do you need?" And he's like, "I want you to work here." I was like, "Okay." All right. So ended up working at Winners and Losers for like a year and a half.
Mhm.
And then I worked at the local too for a little bit. Love Jeff Reed.
Yeah.
He is the best human being, and I love that place.
It's a cool spot. Yeah.
It's the best. He's like a dad to me. I call him Grampy Jeff.
That was the first place I ever saw a show in Nashville. By the way, it
Really?
was the local. Yeah.
The local's so underrated. It
Mhm.
just and then I ended up going to like these 2 like little random bars downtown again, like temporarily, and then I got to Barstool. So
Okay.
met a lot of cool people along the way.
Mhm.
Losers and Winners was probably one of the coolest like bars I've worked at.
Yeah.
Like despite like the management atmosphere, but the people and like the regulars that are there, like,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, what Post Malone goes in there all the time. Like
Mhm.
there's some, I mean, Chris Young's in there all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, just like meeting those people and you would never even think like,
Right.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it was cool.
Yeah, Midtown, the atmosphere in Midtown is a lot less chaotic than Broadway too, in a lot of ways. Sometimes, right? So I feel like it's more conducive to like striking up conversations with people, whereas Broadway, it's like all these bells and whistles and
Yeah.
people, just kind of having the time of their lives. I think Midtown's a little more mellow in the sense that like, you never know who you're going to meet, but you also never know what kind of conversation you're going to have down there.
Yeah. So when I got hired on at Barstool, I've been like waiting because I knew that it was coming, and then I was like waiting to like message the RGM that was running it and like opening it. And so I like originally wanted to be like a daytime bartender, which because I just connect more, like you said, like if there's just more conversation, like there would be in Midtown. So I wanted that conversation, which I don't mind working the nights because that's usually where the money is. But yeah, I do like the day shifts, and then I can have my night off. But like I said, I love that conversation with people, and that's how I've met so many like people from all over. So that's what I thrive off of.
And of course, people from all over coming into Nashville more and more and more.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've all heard the stories of, stuff that goes down on Broadway. So do you have any interesting stories, things you've experienced or witnessed in your time down there?
One of the coolest things I've witnessed was when Post Malone and Luke Combs were filming on Broadway, just like out of nowhere. That was so cool. Like, and I mean, nobody knew about it. That was probably one of the coolest experiences I've seen. Just like the concerts that people are just randomly like getting up there on the stage. They're like, "Hey, Dirk Bentley's walking into his bar. He's gonna go sing for a minute." Like, those are like the cool parts. The dumb parts. Well, I mean, no, there's like, I mean, they are dumb, but they're funny. Like CMA Fest, like there was a homeless dude that like stole a fire truck.
Stole a fire truck.
He tried to anyway. Yeah. Just like stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
So
people seeing how far they can push the envelope.
Yeah. And just like crazy stories of like, I'm sure you've seen where like somebody shits on the floor. Like, yeah, like people do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just insane to me.
It is. Yeah. And I think, there are just certain destinations people go to. And I think Nashville's become one of them where people just see how far they can take it, like they show up to act up and act like they never would back home.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, the internet is forever. So I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. Were you down there the night that Vandy beat Bama?
Yes. And I watched the goalpost go by.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was pretty wild. It was really wild. That was a cool experience to watch, but
I remember I was out driving and I looked at my phone. I like took a minute, looked at my phone and saw that on Instagram. I'm like, I'm going home because if that's
well, they tried to bring it. They were gonna try and bring it to Barstool.
Were they?
Yeah, that's what we were told because we were trying to. Apparently, the owner wanted to like take it and like put it in Barstool, which is cool. Yeah. Yeah. But they ended up just throwing it in the river. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That was why it was a crazy night downtown then. Anyway, before any of that.
And I'm
happened.
like. Literally 3/4 of this entire crowd is all underage, so I don't know why y'all are down here.
Right. My favorite part of that whole thing was the kid just riding on top of it,
which was hilarious.
Well, everyone else did the work. Like that's a future CEO right there.
Oh yeah, and like the cops just didn't even care. They just let it happen.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious to me. I'm like, you can't stop all of those people.
You can't arrest them all.
I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah,
so.
it is. It's memorable. And I think there are pieces of it like at different bars around Broadway. Somebody was telling me that.
Yeah, because the owner wanted a Barstool wanted to buy a piece of it too. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Somebody was telling me who works at Vandy that the pad from the goalpost is at Garth's over.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Or at least a piece of it or something, or some piece of the goalpost. Like Garth Brooks bought it and put it in his bar.
Yeah. What's crazy though is like I feel bad for like the fire department and everybody like having to get it out of the water after they did that.
Yeah.
Because the Cumberland's nasty, but I mean I know Vandy was fined like
Mhm.
I don't even remember how much they were fined, but so,
yeah.
It was cool.
There was one point apparently too where like they weren't sure they were going to be able to get it out of the stadium.
Yeah.
And somebody was telling me like we have some of the smartest students in the world who don't understand physics and how things fit.
I know. I'm like, we have doctors here that are literally carrying this goalpost out. Like, I'm like, what are y'all doing?
The future medical leaders of America.
Yeah, they can't even get the goalpost out.
But
so
that's Nashville. That's what's going on here these days. And of course, you get to talk about a lot of your experiences on Broadway Girls.
Mm-hmm.
So new episodes, of course, in production. So tell us a little bit about the show, what we can expect, and the types of folks you like to have on.
So I originally just started Broadway Girls because I wanted it to showcase like what makes Nashville Nashville.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's, you know, people like you who like created this like, you know, entire like podcast, like everything like that. It's the hairstylists that do, you know, all the stars, like hair and makeup. It's the bartenders that have a shot named after them.
Mhm.
Like, you know, it's people like that. It's the Lyft drivers, you know, that are constantly like, you know, dealing with all these people. I wanted to showcase that instead of, because it's not just like drinking and partying.
Mhm.
And that's what my parents think it is. And so I'm like, it's literally not. I don't really go out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but there's always something to do. And it's more than just that. So I wanted people to see that side of it.
Yeah.
And then also, like, my mom's like, okay, well, you know, people aren't going to care like about like what makes Nashville Nashville. And I'm like, they will when it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how the street interviews got started.
Yeah.
So the guests I like to have on are like, you know, people like you and Taylor and stuff like that. And I mean, it's not necessarily just like musicians, but I just had on Alana McCready's band, which they're contracted through Barstool. Amazing group of people.
Yeah.
Like I love them. They're my favorite band on Broadway. So like, you know, showcasing those people who have literally all of them had a different start, which it was cool to listen to all their backstories. So just stuff like that.
And my understanding from that fateful Lyft ride and what you told me was you were kind of pioneering that whole like street interviews thing with Broadway Girls. So
yeah, that's how I kind of went viral. Well, kind of, I did it. Yeah. So I went viral doing that, but I was like one of the original people to do the street interviews on Broadway because the two guys that got the hawk to a bitch or whatever, they were the first OG people to do street interviews, and I started going out there and like doing it. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. How do you feel about how that's evolved into like this thing that people just go out, they're trying to get these street interviews, they're trying to get these viral moments, and not just here in Nashville. I was in Austin during South by Southwest. You had people out there doing it, just like grabbing people, trying to get that soundbite, trying to get, you know, interviews. Like, how do you feel about how that phenomenon has evolved?
That's a hard question. I think just because like with social media, it's just that's like people like the short clips and they like to see that stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's become a lot more popular. And just, everybody's trying to get through 3 seconds of fame.
Yeah.
And you just never know. I like to do the street interviews like at nighttime when they shut down Broadway and it's just like all these drunk people. But I also don't post all the answers I get.
Right.
Because some of them would like ruin some lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like,
sure.
y'all are, so.
Again, going back to that, people come here to act the way they wouldn't act at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Feral.
Yeah.
Basically.
Absolutely feral.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's fun. it's kind of like a science though. I feel like you can't, like, you can just like grab anybody, but like, I feel like it depends on what type of street interviews you're going for.
Right.
So, I mean, you can just kind of pick people out and then you got to just be able to, like, if they're being boring, you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
You got to know how to end the conversation or like keep it going and stuff like that. So,
right.
yeah, I don't think everybody can do it, but I mean, I don't know. But I think that's cool that South by Southwest was doing that too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if South by was, but there were people like in the streets on 6th Street, you know, like again, you know, using that platform of South by Southwest, like, hey, we're here in Austin during South by Southwest and like, let's interview this person and that person. And yeah, when you're already kind of in the middle of this environment where a lot of people are, you know, going and a lot of people are just like taking in the events taking place there, you know, as a content creator, it gives you a platform automatically just by being there, just by showing up.
Oh yeah. I mean, Hannah Berner, she's a comedian. She was the reason why I started it. Like she inspired it, and like she's funny as shit. But she would do them in New York. But they weren't just like random people. They were like comedians and stuff like that. But still, you would never know. But she's funny. But she inspired all of that. So yeah, that's cool though.
Yeah, and I also love that you're bringing on this different cross section of people because we're known as Music City, right? And everybody knows Nashville for music and specifically country music, but like it takes a village here in the creative space. It takes all of the people that you named who contribute to this larger ecosystem.
Yeah.
Because, you know, your bartenders, your Lyft drivers, like your people that are working in this gig economy came here for a reason, right? They came here, most of them, to build the thing, whatever their thing is. And there are so many common threads between creatives, regardless of their discipline, regardless of whether they are podcasters or whether they make music, they might be visual artists. Like we're all building something from zero.
Exactly. And I feel like there's so many content creators like nowadays, but you have to have like a special, like why are you standing out from those other people? Because if you're doing like, okay, for example, you know, the guys that got the Hawk Tuah girl, everybody wanted to do street interviews after that. And so I took a break because I was like, let everybody like go and fizzle out.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people that were doing them, they're not standing out from like other people. So I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's why I like let it go for a second. And I was like, okay, then I'll like ramp it back up because you have to stand out.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you're just in the same mold as like everybody else, then what's the point? So
like 8,000 musicians doing their lip syncing videos. You know, it's like if everyone's doing the same thing, then nobody is, you know, unique in that respect. I start every talk that I do with 2 harsh yet simple truths. You know, and my talks are mainly geared toward musicians, you know, so, you know, in this case, it's being a good musician's not enough, and you have to give people a reason to care. How many people have access to create, right? Within the music industry, I was at a conference last August, and one of the keynotes said that by 2030, 1.3 billion people have access to the tools that they need to make music.
Wow.
Which is wild. So 1.3 billion, and granted, not all on the same level, right? Some are just starting out, some are at the top, and there's a lot in the middle. But nonetheless, like there's a lot of talented people out there. There are a lot of people with the same access that you have. So you need to figure out what your thing is. You know, it's your value proposition, right? In a business sense, it's what can they get from you?
It's all about shaking hands here.
Yeah,
it truly is. But I feel like a lot of the way like country music is like evolving here from when I first moved here, I think that I just feel like it's getting to the point where they all sound the same. And I know people have been saying that for years, but like I've seen so many talented freaking people that deserve it. And I'm like, they're either number one, not shaking the right hands, or they're not hustling enough.
right.
Because I mean, I have a few friends that they just been around the right people and they've put themselves in the right situations in the right areas, and they're way further along than somebody who's 10 times more talented than them.
Right.
So, and I just hate that. Because I'm like, not saying that person doesn't deserve it, but like, you know, you got what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's a certain talent to networking too, and a certain necessity to networking. Like you always want to make sure that you're putting yourself in enough situations, in enough right rooms to build the connections that you need to build. But when you do that too, I think it's a matter of, okay, what value can you bring to the table to where they're going to want to take a chance on you?
Exactly.
And that, I think, is what like a lot of musicians haven't quite figured out yet, because I think when you come here starry-eyed thinking I'm in Nashville, I've made it, you already think like, oh, well, somebody just needs to realize how talented I am and they're going to discover me. It doesn't work that way.
Nope.
Like you have to not only build the right relationships, but do it from a place of like, okay, I don't just want something from you. I have something to offer.
Yeah. And same in my like industry, I guess. Like I don't do music, but I wouldn't have gotten most of the opportunities here if it wasn't for the hands that I shook and the places that where I was at networking and just introducing myself to people.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I never would have gotten some of those opportunities if I didn't put myself out there and hustle. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah, fake it till you make it. So,
well, I think there's definitely something to be said for, stepping into situations where you are uncomfortable, right? Like challenge yourself, push yourself out of your comfort zone. I think the idea of readiness is a myth, right? Like we're never truly ready, first of all, because you never know what's going to happen in the process of the creative journey that's either going to, move you ahead or maybe even set you back a little bit, so you just have to kind of take the events as they come and just keep moving forward, keep finding the way to win today and then win the next day and the next day, and just put yourself in the right situations over time. Is every single one of them going to work out?
yeah.
No, but like as you go, I mean, this is what I found for myself is like, the successes feel good, but like you don't rest on them too long.
No.
You learn not to rest on those too long. The failures, which are really just lessons, like, yeah, it might suck for a moment, but you don't stay down too long because like, okay, this is just a redirection, right? Into, the person and the situations that I need to be in, and I think, as we go on that journey, we find that, it's all within the journey that we become who we're meant to be, that we create what we're meant to create through the things that work out. And it's like, okay, do more of that, and also the things that don't. It's like, okay, maybe that wasn't the lane. Maybe we need to go over here, or maybe we just need to stick to what we're doing instead of trying to, come up with all these crazy pivots.
No, I agree 100%.
So there's a reality show as well.
Yes.
All right. So this has been something that's been in the works. And so it's following you and a bunch of other creators in your journeys as you build your platforms.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about it.
So the guy he found me on Instagram, he like DM'd me, saw like my reels, and I was like, thanks, my manager's doing her job. So it's kind of hard to explain. It is organized chaos right now because there's just like certain things that we're trying to, smooth out the kinks and everything like that. So it basically, it's a few content creators and they're helping us build our brand. And it's through the Heartland Network, which they did get a new president, and he's like wanting to revamp the entire network and make it, not that old like country. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of the Heartland Network. Yeah, it was like an old country music thing, like whatever, it was boring. So they're trying to revamp all those like networks underneath the umbrella, which I think is really cool. And the guy that's like in charge of all of us doing stuff, he helped create the 615 house and like I forgot what the other one was. I think it's like Riot or something, Riot House. But so he's already done successful things. So he's trying to help us like build our brands and like skyrocket to, I guess, like fame if that's what we want. And so I mean, it's a lot of work. It really is. It's a very time consuming thing, and it's very frustrating at times because so far it's been frustrating because I'm like, okay, is this going to work? I'm like, why am I doing this? And I'm like, why am I spending so much time? But I truly do believe that in the end that it will work out, hopefully. So knock on wood. But we have some really cool things coming up. We're hosting a stage at CMA Fest. They're sending us to like Gulf Coast Jam to like do certain things. And I mean, every creator is different. I'm the only podcaster on there.
Really?
Yeah, and I do like the street interviews. And then there's a girl who's like a model and does like, and she's a mom. And then there's another girl that owns her own like stylist business, and she works with Scott Borchetta. Is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then there's another girl that's just like an equestrian like influencer, and then another girl from LA. Like, she's really cool. She's already like pretty famous anyways. Like, she already has like 3 million followers on TikTok, but she's cool. But we have a lot of things planned, and they're just kind of sending us out to like create content, which seems dumb, but that's all our brands are, like creating content. So like they sent us out to Dunlap, Tennessee like 2 weekends ago. Which, have you ever heard of Dunlap?
I think I've maybe driven by it on the highway once or twice.
Well, I'm actually wearing their shirt. Okay. It's called it says Small Town America on the back, but we did a crossover episode with this show called Small Town America. It's on YouTube TV. And these people, they like are revamping the town, and they have like a mercantile, like all kinds of stuff. It's like, it's really, really cool. And they're really nice people. And there's a lot of history in that town that I had no idea about. Like the Trail of Tears ran through there. The like coke ovens, which is like the coal mining thing, something like that. It's the most famous like paragliding, hang gliding thing in the East.
Really?
Yeah, they have this whole like platform on top of a mountain. It's really cool. So yeah, but we did a crossover episode with them. They sent us out to do content and stuff like that. I mean, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I do know that I have to teach an artist how to make an espresso martini soon. So that should be fun.
All right.
So it's like stuff like that. But I know that it's, even though we're doing it, it's called The Collective, and it's for the Collective like brand, but we're still also getting our same like content in the same time, I guess.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, even though it's for the Collective, we're still building our brands, because people are going to go and click on us and follow our brands and see what we're doing too. So
Yeah.
And they're helping us along with all of that. So yeah, and they just told us that they're finally going to pay us. So not much, but hey,
it's
whatever.
Something.
Yeah, it's something.
Plus
we were doing it for free. So
yeah. Plus the platform boost and what it's going to do for your brands.
Yeah, I hope it takes off, because I'm like, I'm tired of bartending. So yeah. But it should be launching. It should be the week of CMA Fest.
Yeah.
So that's when we launch the Instagram and stuff like that. And I think they're doing like a few short episodes that will air like on the Heartland Network and stuff like that. But when I get more info, I'll tell you.
Amazing. You mentioned something too there where essentially they're trying to help catapult you to whatever level of fame you desire, right?
Yeah.
As individual creators. Where do you hope the road leads for you and for Broadway Girls and for everything that you touch?
Honestly, I hope to be doing podcasting full time and just have it, because I mean, I'm not good at all the audio things and like all that stuff. I want to be able to like do it all by myself, or just have somebody, like I can pay somebody to like do it. And I just, all I have to do is come in and record episodes and stuff like that. Like I eventually want it to be, where I'm doing it full time, and that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I have like, I don't know. I'm not really like expecting fame off of it. I mean, I just like making people laugh, and I like doing the podcasting stuff and everything like that. So
yeah,
hopefully, it'll take off to where, like I said, I'm doing it full time.
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
And you've already got the support of Barstool.
Yeah. So that was funny. Tin Roof actually offered to pay for my street interviews, and Barstool was like, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay, well, what now? And they're like, no, we'll pay for it. I'm like, okay. So then it evolved into me recording the podcast there. So, and that's where I record like every time. So yeah, that's pretty cool though.
Yeah. Great central location, and you've got so much happening, and I'm really excited for you to see where it leads. Definitely want to know more about that CMA Fest thing too.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll talk about that offline, but I have an existential question for you.
Okay.
And you were really excited about this before we started. So if there is one lesson that you could go back to East Texas and teach your younger self that you've learned along the journey so far, what would the most important lesson be?
Well, number one, save my money. I'm so bad about saving money.
Yeah,
save
I get
my
it.
money and stop spending money on stupid bullshit like food, just fast food. Whatever. I'm really bad about that. Drinks, whatever.
What's your favorite fast food place?
Whataburger, hands down.
Yeah.
Whataburger. Not the ones here. They're not made with love. So
they're not made with
no,
love.
They're not. Save money is the biggest thing. And just not be so trusting. And like, even now, like if I were to go back and tell myself like this person I, was when I first moved here, it would be literally not be so trusting and stop letting so many people into your circle. And yeah, I've been way too trusting. And so I would definitely not do that. I would do a lot of things different.
Yeah.
So
as you go and as you grow, you really have to consider who you're giving access.
Yeah.
You know, and that was something I mentioned too offline. I was just up in Toronto for the Departure conference, which was amazing, and thanks to the folks at Departure for the wonderful experience in the brief time I was there. And Shaggy did one of the talks. Shaggy, you know, it wasn't me, that guy.
Yeah.
And he got to pretty much talk about, you know, his journey, what he's learned, you know, how he came up and, you know, gave rise to that dance hall reggae sound in a time where that wasn't really the mainstream thing. And there was a Q&A at the end. I actually had a chance to grab the mic and ask him that same question. And he told me the same thing pretty much was, you know, you have to really, you know, manage the energy around you and the people that you let into your circle. And the way he put it, and, you know, over the past few months, I've gotten a lot more intentional about this too, because without getting into detail, the end of last year, started letting the wrong people in, and it led to some chaos that I then had to redirect to get ready for, you know, the big things happening this year. And ever since doing that, ever since redirecting my energy, like my trajectory has, and the trajectory of the platform has been amazing, you know, because I've really been intentional about what energy I'm letting in. And like, I don't really have time or make time or room for chaos at this point.
Yeah,
you know?
I've met some of the best people here, and I've also met some of the absolute worst people. And yeah, I would not be so trusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people, they like, you give people the benefit of the doubt, and then they turn around and they burn you.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned here. And I mean, yeah, younger self too. So
yeah,
and
I think as we go, we learn those patterns. Like that's what Shaggy said. You know, to get back to Shaggy, he said there are winners and losers. And you can tell who's who more quickly, you know, by the patterns that they exhibit. And you know who to, you know, lean into and pour into, and who to stay away from. And there's no reason for any of us to ever carry that kind of dead weight. If something's dragging us down, if someone's dragging us down, like, let it go. Like, wish them well, but let it go. Go this way. And that's, you know, that's the healthiest thing we can do for ourselves. Like, don't stay and fight. Don't chase. Don't try to change anybody. It's not worth it. Everybody's on their own journey, their own path. Some people don't want to change. Some people don't even know that they should or need to, you know? So all we can do is just focus on being better versions of ourselves. And just like, as you go, you start to refine that circle around you.
Yeah, also just life is too short. And I've like, I know it's such a like cliche statement, but it really is. And like in the past couple years, I've really like, that's come up, and I'm like, okay, like I just need to remember that, you know, not everything is, you know, a lot of things are temporary. So just not to like be so hard on yourself and stuff like that. So yeah. Life's too short. Just go out and do it, because you're never, what if you never get that opportunity again?
Yeah.
So
yeah. As I approach age 40 and get more and more gray in my beard, that's like so prevalent on my mind now. It's like, you know, okay, I still got some time left, but I don't have as much time left as I did 12 years ago when I started the show. So what are we doing? You know, like,
and
let's get to it.
Well, that, and like people, I used to think 30 was so old. I'm 30 and I'm about to be 31. And like, I'm like, oh my God, like I was so hard on myself when I turned 30. I didn't think that I had done enough. And I'm like, you know what? Some people didn't get their start until like they were 40 or they were 50. And I'm like, there shouldn't be this like timeline. And I think that's what our parents, like generation, kind of instilled in us. Like you got a timeline. And I just, now I'm like, there isn't one.
Right.
You can literally start your life at any age.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You can start over as many times as you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all have at different points in our lives, you know, like something doesn't work out, a relationship doesn't work out, a job doesn't work out. Sometimes all of those things don't work out at the same time. That was my 2017. And it's just like, you're just kind of looking at the rubble around you, and it's like, well, I'm still here, you know, like, and that's the thing, is like, we have more time than we think, and you don't want to take it for granted. But also, like, just because something doesn't work out the way you want it to doesn't mean that life is over and you can't create something better out of it, right?
Exactly.
You know, that was, I fit right around 30 was like, for me, like, yeah, it was 2017. I turned 30, 7-year relationship ends. I finally have enough of my day job, and that was my second attempt at taking all this full time. I'm now on my third, which I've been on for 4.5 years somehow by the grace of God. And it was just like, okay, like everything that I thought I was setting up for myself, all the boxes I thought I was checking, because like it was a big thing for, like, I literally, coming out of college, I literally had in a Word document, a pre-engagement checklist of all the things that I needed to do before I proposed to my girlfriend. And then I did all of those things and didn't feel ready. And then 5 more years went by.
I'm like, you're never going to be ready.
Right.
Like either, I mean, sometimes, well, I don't know. I just feel like you're never going to be ready for certain things.
Right.
So,
But I was sold that idea that, okay, well, you just need to check these boxes and then you're ready. And there was no feeling ready. Right around the time I completed the checklist was right around the time I started having panic attacks right before I started this show because something wasn't right. I didn't have something that was mine. I had a day job in New York, which was cool, but I had to commute 2.5 hours to get to it one way. I had that relationship down in the Philly area that most of my weekends were spent down there. There was nothing coming back this way, really. Like on paper, it looked great. But inside, like there was a lot of inner turmoil, and like you need to sort through that inner turmoil, and you need to figure out like, okay, where am I in all of this, and like what's best for me, so I can show up as the best version of myself, so I can not only attract, what I want in this life, but then I am the person that is equipped to keep it there.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, it's, I don't teach anything I haven't had to learn myself. So,
for sure.
We're all on that ride, and it's, you just have to, you learn to take the lessons in stride. Because as all that was going on when I was 30, it was like, I thought the world was ending. Like, it felt like I Am Legend, where I'm just standing around as the last person on earth and everything's burning around me. But then you find a way forward.
Yep. You pick yourself up and you keep going.
Yeah. And
for sure.
Here we are. Here we are. Well, Caroline, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Wait, I did have a question for you.
What's that?
What is the craziest lift story you have? I want to know so bad.
Let's see.
Craziest lift story, like that was just like absolutely like a shit show wild, and then the coolest one. And then
let's see. Craziest, I've definitely been propositioned before a couple times by men. Drunk men, yes, have and they weren't kidding. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you, but thank you, I'm flattered. Just yesterday, as of recording, I had a guy who was very nervous because he had a woman coming to his apartment who he described as a Miami 10. And he's like, yeah, she's really particular about size. I'm like, oh. I'm just driving.
And you're like, I don't care.
And he's sitting in the front seat with me. Like
things I didn't ask about.
Yeah. He's sitting in the front seat with me. And I'm just like driving.
He's sitting in the front? Why?
Yeah. Just because he just needed a friend, I guess, at the time. And I'm being supportive. I'm like, it's, whatever it's going to be, it's going to be, it's not the end of the world. I tend to, and for me, I don't care. I'm at the point in my life where I don't care about all the superficial, stuff like that. I'm not into hookup culture. I haven't been on a dating app in 5.5 years. I don't plan on getting back on one anytime soon. I'm creating my life and my world, and whoever comes into it, wonderful, because I like my life, so I don't let situations like this determine how I view myself, right? So I can feel that radiating off of him, and I'm just like, man, this guy's about to get wrecked by this woman. There's no,
you're just right.
He's already in his head about it. It's not going to get any better from here. But then he starts asking me yeah, man, what's average? Do you know what average is? In terms of size. Yeah. And I'm like, I think it's 5. I don't know. I mean, I haven't really researched it, to be honest. He's like, man, have you ever had somebody criticize you? I'm just
I didn't know this was a therapy session.
Yeah. Right? I'm just no, not that I can.
And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'm maybe I have, haha. Yeah. But I'm just sitting there, just thinking, man, this dude's about to get wrecked by this woman because, he's already in his head about it. I felt bad, you know. But at the same time, I was just I dropped him off. I'm like, oh man, I'm praying for him because it's. It was just one of those things where just that was. I immediately said to myself, as soon as I dropped him off and went to go pick up the next one, I'm like, that one's an all-time lift story right there.
Yeah, that's wild.
I was not expecting that. I was not expecting that at all. But, I hope it went well, sir. Best wishes. And remember, even if it didn't, it's not the end of the world.
It's not.
No, you don't get too high or too low. You know what I mean? If it went well, great. But,
that's hilarious.
It's a moment. If it didn't, cool. It's a moment. Coolest stories. I mean, I meet a lot of interesting people and have a lot of really good conversations, you just meet people from all over the place. And I had something else cool happen yesterday. It's just on the top of my mind because it's so recent, where I moved here from the Philly area, from Bethlehem. I had 5 passengers or groups of passengers in a row who all knew where Bethlehem was. was.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I feel like I'm home.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to talk to them about specific things that like people from, say, like Wisconsin wouldn't necessarily understand because they're not from there. Nothing against Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a cool place. It's very beautiful.
Cheeseheads.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of great cheese and beer up that way. But yeah, that was cool. But yeah, you just meet a lot of interesting people, and like everybody's got a story. And like that's honestly what I love about what I do is like you get to understand people, and learn their stories, learn who they are, where they've come from. And when you have that opportunity, when you have the opportunities that folks like us have, where we're in this city and we're meeting new people on a daily basis by like the dozens, right? Like it's hard to really judge too hard, because everybody's coming from a place in their own journey. And for me, like, I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Yeah. So it's just cool to see like, that come to life in a city like Nashville. That's cool. That probably got deeper than you wanted it to.
No, I love that. I asked. I wanted to hear about it.
Yeah.
I feel like y'all deal with as much bullshit as the bartenders do. So.
Well, I have a trick. I usually don't drive past 11 o'clock because I also like to, sometimes on the weekends, like go out and experience life a little, like I live right over here on Fatherland and I'm in walking distance to 5 Points. And, I like to go out and try to be social, separate from all this music stuff. I go to Low Bar for karaoke. It's a great time. Shout out to the folks at Low Bar. Brandon Jazz does a great job, even though he has a Creed band in place, which we'll have to talk about. But, no Creed allowed. I tried signing up for a Creed song. He wouldn't let me.
Why?
I don't know.
What does he have against Creed?
You know what? Here's what I chalk it up to. Creed is the biggest band on the planet because they're so over requested that you have to put bands in place so everyone doesn't sing Creed. So we've won.
What's wrong with everybody sings Creed?
Exactly. The world is a better place when everybody loves Creed, as we've seen since the resurgence over the past couple of years. I got to see them last.
Ascend?
No. I was actually up in Pennsylvania. I got to see them in August up in Hershey, Pennsylvania, which that stadium is older than dirt and very hard to navigate. But the show was amazing.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Top 5 show I've ever seen in my life. No joke. Scott Stapp was on.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
Like he was one of the best frontman performances I've ever seen.
Wow.
Legit. And I mean, the whole band, like they shred and they're super tight. And it was just such a dynamic show. Incredible. So go see Creed.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that Creed is the biggest band on the planet again. You couldn't stop us, all you haters. We're back. I believed back in 2007. Anyway, Caroline West from Broadway Girls. Where can they learn more about you online?
You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. It's Broadway Girls on Instagram, I think, with 2 B's, and then TikTok, I think it's with 2 S's. Those might be swapped. I think it's 2 right now.
I think it's 2 S's on Instagram.
Okay, yeah, I'm blanking out right now.
One of us is right, no matter what.
One of those is right, so you'll find it. My personal one is just Caroline with 2 E's, West with 2 T's. Really creative, so you can follow me on there too. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll have to come down to Barstool sometime.
Yes.
I've actually never been in there, so.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'm a local. I don't go to Broadway.
Hey, we're a big industry bar. We do industry discounts every day.
Yeah?
Yeah, Sundays are half off your tab.
I'll keep that in mind.
Exactly.
This has been the Quinn Spin. 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and more. Also on Instagram at Quinn Spin Official. Again, 2 N's and Quinn, 2 N's and Spin. Underground Music Collective is our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. UMCworldwide.com, as well as on the socials, except for YouTube, just because I haven't changed that one over from UMC Nashville yet. And you can, of course, learn more about the UMC Academy when you go to UMCworldwide.com. That is how we coach our artists up to think and move like entrepreneurs. A new brand camp enrollment period is underway right now as of release of this episode. I was going to say starting soon just because I haven't created the page yet as of recording, but it is already online if you're watching or listening to this. And of course, become an underdog for the inside track to new educational offerings, performance opportunities, connection to the entire world of creativity. We are UMC Worldwide for a reason. I was just in Toronto after all. We're talking about Europe. Get on the ground floor now. Become an underdog. Early bird pricing, $25 a month, $250 for the year gets you tapped in and the first to know about any opportunities within the Underground Music Collective ecosystem. Revel 9's All Become going to take us out like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on the way out.
I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. I'm alive.